I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Meneghini?
Here.
Mr. Marraro?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion on the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Meneghini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yep.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 3rd, 2020, special meeting of February 17th. Is there any questions on the minutes? If not, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on February 3rd and the special meeting of February 17th, 2020.
Special meeting of February 17th.
Support.
Today's 17th, isn't it? Today's a special meeting?
That should have been the 10th.
Yeah, the
that's what I
10th.
said.
I don't even know what day it is.
Want to redo it for the 10th, please?
Okay, make a motion that we pass the regular meeting on February 3rd and the special meeting on February 10th.
Support.
Mr. Meneghini?
Yes.
Mr. Marraro?
Yep.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Move on to the approval of manifest 2020-04. Scott, do you have any questions?
I have nothing for tonight.
Brett?
I have none.
Jeff?
Give me 1 second, Madam Mayor. I got some questions, yeah. Page 47, 2020 tuition, Daniel Ball, $4,000.
Yes.
What's the history behind that?
Okay, so we have tried to advertise for linemen, journeyman linemen, and we mostly get apprentices, and it's been a struggle actually to, if you're not from the area, to keep people in that department. So we have a policy now where we will pay for schooling, and then you sign a contract, and you have to stay with us for X amount of years.
What we talked about during the last meeting with the...
Yeah, basically, yes, exactly, and that's something we've talked about, that we may have to expand as well in the water and sewer with the same kind of issues.
And what is that, so how much of that tuition are we in the line for with Danny?
What's 100%? We pay the
So
tuition, and
what-
then he has to stay X amount of years.
Right, is that
To
all
work
of
on.
it right there, $4,000?
No, that's just for this year.
How many years
So
is
it's
that?
about $15,000 total, so it's be 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about 16,000 somewhere in that range.
Page 1, under admin, Introdyne, email archiving annual renewal.
Yes, that's part of the requirements that we have for government to keep our emails archived. That's the company we selected to utilize.
Okay, I understand. 2, page 2, major streets, Coleman. So,
Where's that at, Jeff? Under what department?
major streets,
Major streets, yeah.
professional services,
Okay.
3150-850
Yes.
for,
Well, they're putting together our packages, engineering packages for the urban and rural task force of federal aid projects. That's US 2, going up, or not US 2, Main Street, going up the hill, all the way to the...
so this is grant work?
Yeah, there's 80% grant is on the construction only.
I understand, but this is, we're putting this money out for them to help build the grant, is what you're saying?
We have, they have been contracted to actually do the engineering, perform the engineering for us, and to
Okay.
handle the paperwork for, with federal aid, with PennDOT.
Okay.
And we did bid that out, excuse me.
Yeah.
What was the total bid?
The total, I can't
Don't worry
know
about it.
right off the top. I can get you that number,
That's
so I
fine.
will get it for
That's
you.
fine. Page 3 to 7, under capital projects fund, looking at the storm sewer assessment management plan. 2 payments to Coleman. Is that about it now for that, or,
Yeah, that should be done.
so another 20 and change? And we should be.
We're done.
We're done with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was paid through the SAW grant program?
Yes, that was a 90% grant through SAW.
Yep. And they do cover, the engineering for that then?
Yes, that's all.
Unlike the other?
Yes. Yeah, when you deal with MDOT grants, whatever it's category A, B, whatever you do with them, they always stipulate your percentage, your grant is on the construction only. So engineering is always, we have to take that into account outside of that grant.
But not in this case?
Not in this case, no.
Okay, thanks.
No, most of them, we can put engineering into the grant.
Further down on 4.7, Mead and Hunt, under electric. Mead and Hunt Incorporated, Sturgeon Falls, FERC compliance, $12,700.91. So that's for our FERC compliance?
Yes, we have a contract with Mead and Hunt to manage help us with for compliance regulations.
Is that a yearly charge?
They give us an amount each year based on what we have to do for that year, for that requirement.
Is that for the year? Is that for?
No, they
2020?
bill us on a monthly basis.
So we're paying 250 grand a year? Or,
No,
I'm sorry, 150 grand a year?
no. I'm sorry, which page was that?
4.7.
Or something?
Yeah, take your time, under electric.
I'm going to answer the previous question.
Sure.
Within here. The budget is $31,926 for Coleman to do the engineering.
For the MDOT project?
Correct. When I have the invoices, I have them put it, what the budget is, billed to date and remaining.
Nice.
So, you're on electric.
4.7,
4.7, okay.
Mead and Hunt.
They bill us on a monthly basis, again, it's the same thing. I think the annual is about $30,000, just off the top of my head, but,
But you don't have,
Invoice.
if you want to answer that for next meeting, that's fine too. I'm just concerned that we're paying 1 month $12,700.
but it's based on how much work they have to do. If they had to do a lot of work this month, then it'll be higher.
No,
Some
I-
months they have $400.
And you're thinking it's more like a $30,000 a year
It is,
number?
yeah, we've never gone over 30,000, and it's based on time and material, so it's, if they don't use all 30, they don't charge us.
My assumption is that they finished up their 2019 FERC compliance stuff, and they did a lot of work in November, December, and then we got a big chunk of the bill here.
Yeah.
Beginning of this
Yeah, we've got, towards the end of the year, there's what they call an annual letter, and we have an annual report that we have to do, so December is the busiest month for
Okay.
that, definitely.
Right below it, municipal electric utility, 2020 electric utility safety, TRG. Training, I'm guessing?
Yes, that's a requirement for our electric employees to go through what they call JT&S, which is specific to electric pole climbing, hot work, different safety. And
Yearly training?
yeah, it's quarterly, actually. We do 4 to 8, depending on what kind of classes we got.
That's mandated by the state?
That's mandated by both state and federal.
Okay. 5.7, professional services under wastewater fund. I see some more SAW things there. So again, that should be the last 5 payments now to Coleman?
Yeah, I'm sure they're trickling in the bills,
Okay.
or just finalizing.
That's all I have.
Lee?
Yeah, just, if I remember right, on that FERC compliance, we did bid that out, didn't we? Because there was somebody else that...
No, we haven't. We
just
talked
stayed
about
with
doing it
Coleman?
this year.
Oh, we talked about doing it,
We
okay.
talked about it and this year because we've had a long-standing relationship with Mead and Hunt for handling our FERC compliance. We've gotten some inquiries over the last 6 months on other firms that are interested, so we'll probably take a look
I
at
thought we
it.
had bid it up. Page 2 of 7, Down, winter maintenance, raised feed mill, calcium flakes?
I'll have to check on that.
Okay. I mean, it isn't that much, but I have no idea what a calcium flake is. Okay, and then on 3.7, I have, under Norway Fire Department, this has got to be a misprint, service slat delivery? SLAT, it says slat delivery from Norway Springs.
Salt delivery?
No, what they do is they get the bottled water. They
Yeah.
get, because they take them out, they have to take that out on their trucks. You know, when they have an issue, you know, when they go out for a call, they have the water with them.
No, that's understandable.
So that's, I would say slat is probably, I don't know what it.
Yeah,
Find out the
Slate-
definition of it for me.
Pallet, like a pallet, yeah.
Okay, and then on 107, just a comment here, under Police Department, I see where our Chief of Police, Mr. Schaefer, bought 10 15-foot taser cartridges. I just hope they don't have to use them. That's all I have.
Yeah.
All right, I got a couple.
Better than that than the 40 cals.
On page 3 of 7, I just have a comment. Under communications, which is our TV and internet, just want people to be aware, Fox Sports Network Detroit, our channel, costs us $5,867.48 for the month, just to have Fox Sports. Then I got a question on 4 of 7, under the electric. Efficiency United contribution, you know what that is? And it says EO funds.
Yep, energy optimization, it's a requirement by the state, so that's something that you'll see the EO on your bill, and we collect that and send it to Efficiency United, and they handle the energy efficiency programs. That is one that sunsets in 2021. We are required to have programs here, but we can do it locally instead of sending it to them.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I don't remember seeing that on there.
Well, actually, yeah, we're required to put in 2% of our gross revenues.
Okay.
So,
I have no other questions. If there's no other questions, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve manifest number 2020-04 in the amount of $259,887.47.
Second.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
There's no one in the audience. We'll move on to appointments and presentation. First reading, ordinance 435, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This particular issue came up when we had some inquiries about where our snowmobiles can travel throughout the community. I looked at our ordinance, and I thought at one point, I thought we had an ordinance that dealt with snowmobiles being able to travel on alleys, not on streets, and there was no mention in our ordinances on the snowmobiles. And I worked with both City Attorney Carlson and our police chief, first questioning that, and then what are the legal avenues, routes. And actually, the state law does have legislation, which I provided you in first reading tonight. But just from my perspective, I think that even if we just mirrored the state law, most people have a hard time finding that language. You know, if they go out asking that question, it's really not the easiest thing to find. So it's always easier if even if we just mirrored it, we had it in our ordinance. It's easier for them to find. So We're proposing that we put together a snowmobile ordinance. I did check a number of communities across the UP, and, you know, we found one or two that we did like. They're simple definition, and really right now, under the state law, a snowmobile can go on street or alley, basically right of way. There are some basic common sense restrictions in the sense that you got to have stickers, you got to have helmets, you got to have, you know, the types of provisions that you would just expect. So we put together a quick ordinance, and we'd like to present it for first reading, and then see if council might be interested in heading out to public hearing at some point here in the near future. So I can entertain any questions that you have on
Well,
that.
I thought we were good in the alleys already. I mean, I remember when I used to run sleds, it's been a while.
It is, and that's a, you know.
Why expand it to the streets, I guess? Why can't, I mean, you can pretty much get your through the alleys.
So personally, I have a snowmobile, I wouldn't want to take it down our street.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you know.
Just with carbines and stuff, it's gonna
Tear everything up.
It's gonna tear stuff up.
And the thing is,
And
the state law does allow snowmobiles on any right-of-way. So, you know, we could do a local ordinance, though, that says on alleys, and it would put any kind of rules that you might want in place. Am I over-speaking on that?
No, and I was reading through it again and double-checking a little bit of, and I think we went overly broad, just for discussion purposes with the council. It's easier to just strike out. I utilize snowmobiles, I enjoy them from the time I was a child here in the community, and I think, you know, similar to Councilman Mararo's comments, we have this ordinance regarding the streets, you know, ORVs on the streets. I don't think we are such a hotbed of snowmobile use like Munising or Houghton, and even there, they don't, I think they don't want to see snowmobiles on the streets necessarily. Alleyways, I think, are probably the most reasonable. Also, it allows people to access our local businesses, our local bars, our local restaurants, our local lodging, and they can use the alleyways, I think, is sufficient. There is some language, and I was looking through again and, you know, kind of put notes and striking a few things. I think it helps to identify, they're going to cross streets.
Yeah, right.
You cross it on a right angle.
Perpendicular to
you go
street.
across the street.
No problem.
To get from point A to point B. I'd caution the council about expanding it to streets as well. I think alleys are sufficient. You know, and I think a lot of it's up to the community and people visiting. If people abuse it, we might have problems down the road. Like we've, you know, the ORVs haven't been too bad, but we see them every once in a while. I see them late at night, way past nighttime. They're supposed to be done by dark. I don't think it's gotten to the point of abuse yet. I think the officers do a nice job of chatting and maybe doing some PR and some warnings. Snowmobiles, they can be loud with loud exhaust. That might be something as well as to consider. You know, if somebody's driving through your alley at 10, 11 o'clock at night with some of these loud exhausts, I could see having some concerns about that, especially folks that are closer to the trail, if they start opening up the alleys and the streets. But I'd caution the council about the streets, but again, it's up to council and how you want to fashion it. But usually what I've seen is run them, you know, at 90-degree angle to cross the street from point A to point B from your home, or if you're traveling to a local motel or restaurant, it's across the street to the point of getting from point A to point B.
I see you add US 2 and USA in here, obviously a prohibited, great. I would also think Main Street, they should be prohibited on Main Street. I mean, if we had to have even designated crossing areas, you know, maybe you let them cross down here off of railroad only, because then you're back to the trail. I could see that coming from Ed's Market or whatever it's called now.
Some of the language that we've seen has very specific, you have to be going to or from a designated trail or business.
Yeah, the problem is,
So you're not just running all over town.
if you're coming from the house, you can cross right by St. Mary's and say you're going out to catch a trail by,
Correct.
you know, Holy Spirit. So, I mean, I think we'd want to limit any kind of use of Main Street. I would like to see it limited anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I read most of that article, and I could have missed it, but I didn't see any speed limits.
Speed would be
15.
definite question.
Yeah,
And
and
make
even
sure
at
that we have it
15
down.
miles an hour down some of these alleys, that's fast.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not knocking the snowmobilers, but there's too many of them that really like to go.
It's easy. They're quick.
I mean, we got 10 mile an hour down there at Strawberry Lake.
There's, you know, the whole process here is, you know, we have a first reading, you can have a second reading. We don't have anything in our charter which outlines, like, a new charter, newer language, you're required to have first reading, second reading, public hearing, and then adoption. Ours, the only thing the charter references is that if you adopt it, then it tells you exactly how you publish it afterwards. And so I've always utilized what a traditional first reading, second reading, if it's kind of a no-brainer ordinance, or it's something that is, you know, can easily be moved on, I mean, you can skip some of those steps, but definitely in this case, you know, we're throwing it out there for conversation. This is all great. We can update it. You can have a second reading before you go to public hearing, which takes some of this, and we can, you know, you give us the questions you want or language you want us to research, we can bring it back, and then, you know, once we have that, then we could go to public hearing. So it gives us the ability and the people to see that we're talking about it, and if anybody has any comments, they could send it in. We don't, you know, this isn't out yet, so nobody's been able to look at it. So it's really up to council how you want us to approach this issue. If you tell us, no, we don't need it, then we move on. But, you know, I seem to remember, just like you said, Mr. Moraro, I seem to remember, as kids, we knew we could go in the alley.
Yep.
And that there was language that said alley only. And I think when we went and had the ORV ordinance put together, we inadvertently might have had the snowmobile ordinance rescinded. Because it's like, I was shocked when I couldn't find any language in the ordinances that dealt with snowmobiles. And so, for nothing else, it helps clarify to people. You know, we allow the access, but here's how we do it.
I'm all for allowing access. You know, I just think we want to be careful having them be on the streets.
So, there's no action necessary, other than you want me to schedule for like the next meeting, we have a second reading, or have a second reading at either the next meeting or in a month to go through some of these questions?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna look up, you know, language on alleys only, not streets, the main street, the US 8 to US 8, you know, some of those restrictions. We've always been kind of sensitive up and around the school, but, you know, if they can't use 4th Avenue in front of the school, then there's no real, that doesn't really have an alley contingent, so we might probably don't have too much to worry about up there. I've also wanted to contact the school to see if they allow snowmobiles on school property, because if they do, then we obviously, the snowmobiles will be going to school, and, you know, would just be aware of that. Helmets, stickers, et cetera, you know, just the basic language for all of that. I don't believe that the example we had mentioned helmets, and that's why I need to find out what language that is, because I think that's good. Usually it's MDOT approved helmet, blah, blah, blah. The noise, I'll check in on that and see about any questions on the noise and the speed. Is there anything else that you want us to check on?
I see it said that you can't take them to work or back. That was in there? Was that, because, and then I think it
I
said
think
something
that was
about
because the
school and back.
language in that particular ordinance said you had to go directly to or from a business or...
The old ordinance was basically, you could only take them in town through the alleys when you're going directly to gas up or to the, or for trail access.
Trail access. And I know the new ordinance that we looked at had businesses, but, and it said no school.
Yes, it's a no school.
No school and, what was he mentioned?
Workplace.
No workplace. Whether or not we want to include that, or just saying you can use it in the alley, you know, that's up to you guys. Do you want us to include limiting it, or just open that you can take the alleys?
well, my personal opinion is, I don't think you want snowmobiles, everybody, driving snowmobiles anywhere they want to go to work and everything else, my personal opinion, but, I mean, to his point, everybody's point here, snowmobiles are fast, they're not obviously safe as vehicles. You slide through a stop sign or something happens and you're gonna have, you're gonna get people hurt,
I definitely think it should be limited to alleyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need another, to be quite honest, I don't need another reading on it either.
And a
I mean,
speed limit, whether it be 10 or 15 miles an hour.
The only concern I'd have is if you limit it to alleys, there is some roadways, like headed over the red line. And I mean, that's on the long side of a street. There's areas where I think that you could say limited to alleys, but yet to get the businesses and such in the city, if you limit it to just alleys, I don't think they can get to them businesses.
The way the state statute reads, just to, and I think that's where Mr. Anderson referenced the MCLs, the risk we run, of course, is becoming too burdensome and having too much in there as far as, it's a state law you wear a helmet already. It's a state law that you have proper stickers. It's a state law that you have a driver's license when you operate a snowmobile. Some people don't know that you need to have a Michigan or a valid state driver's license to operate a snowmobile, boat, or RV. One of the things Mr. Kramer references is something along the lines of if you're allowed to travel the furthest over to the right of way of the street to go from one trail point to another point, or to access point A to point B. There's some language in the state statutes that references that. Sometimes you'll see, the trail will go, and all of a sudden we'll go along the road for, I think down, different area, by crossing bridges sometimes.
We can make exceptions to anything, right? Red line's a good one, that's fine,
Yeah.
but there's not many other ones besides red line I can think of.
Well,
that they're gonna
as
wanna get to.
Mark, ain't really got an alley to get to it. You'd
Yeah.
have to be on the road.
You have
somewhere.
Railroad Avenue, so if you take Strawberry Lake Road and Railroad Avenue, but you gotta stay off of the roadway.
Right.
So, I mean, you have enough room on the side, and snowmobiles are doing it anyway.
Yeah.
They're doing it now anyway.
But that'd be another good example, Candy, yes, of having an
Because you don't
exception.
want to ban them from not being able to get gas.
No, of course not. And we used to go to Ed's all the time. That's where everybody used to come off that trail, right?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
I would think everything else is pretty much,
Well, we'll take this idea too and just look at the map, and there might be areas that we say, no, we should suggest no to have it restricted, and there's other areas we could say, hey, we gotta make sure we don't put ourselves in a box and we gotta let them go through here. So it's gonna take us taking a look at that map. I'll talk with Jim as well, to Police Chief Schaefer, and they got a good idea where, if there's a problem area or there's areas that, so. All right, that's basically all I have on that issue.
All right, we'll move on to presentation, Surgeon Falls Hydro Concrete Restoration. Mr. Dean Hulse from TCR.
Thanks for having me. I think that it's been 2 years since I've been here. I try to get here about every 2 years. We've been started a 5-year project 7 years ago, or an ongoing project, and we're going back to our first year's goal this year, because we've had to move almost every year to meet your needs, which is fine. And Tim's been some headaches for Tim out there, and at times we've had to move around. But I want to just give you an update on where we've been. I promised Lee a fun presentation on the screen, and my computer's locked up, and it looks like it would look like a Picasso painting if I showed it to you today. So, but I'd be glad to come back if anybody wants me to see it later on, what we're working on out there, so you can physically see. But the first year we were here, Joe Pickett was here, and we came as a response to a FERC demand, really, to fix some concrete that was literally hanging on the side. And that's what we're going back to fix this year. But with that, what we did, for those of you that haven't been here through it, is we wrote a 5-year plan, so FERC always had a plan in front of them. And so it's got FERC kind of off your back as far as the structure went on the dam. We've been able to stay with that for the most part, staying ahead of FERC at least 1 year right along. And the other thing we've done is, which keeps them, like I said, it doesn't matter to us, but it matters to you and to your people that are out there. But one of the things that we've been able to do also is we've been able to jump to your needs as when the number one turbine was gonna be down for a month or two in the summer. Instead of losing that production time, we actually pulled off of over by the Tainer gates on the Wisconsin side and pulled into the number one turbine because it was gonna have to be done sometime anyhow. So we've been, just to, not to pat ourselves on the back, but to let you know, we look at it as a partnership, that when we went into this, we considered it a partnership, and I think it's worked pretty well that way. You know, we've gone from really working with Joe Pickard to Ray and I working together on a lot of it. Tim's been our go-to, and Joe's gone, and Tim's gonna be gone. He told me the other day how many hours it was, I think, that we're here yet, so. But I guess I want to emphasize what we've been doing and what we'd like to do, and Ray and I have talked about this, is to build the program out, just to say, here's going to be the needs. Because if you go down and if we had this, we've worked on the inside of most everything now. So we've shut off almost all the water inside the turbine housings, because the first year we started, we were on the Wisconsin side powerhouse. And we took some concrete off the front, you literally pull it off with your hands. It's a 100-year-old structure that hasn't had anything done to it really until the last 7 or 8 years, and for the most part. We would pull it off with our hands, and found as water seeping right through that dam. You pull concrete off and it would come out like a honeycomb. So we went inside, so we've got all the way through all the turbine housings now, so everything that's coming into the hydro is mostly sealed off. But again, you have a 100-year-old structure that's got water in it, and you have freeze thaw in our part of the country. So the next thing we need to do really is go look at the outside of the structure. And this year we're going to be on the Tainer Gate piers, which were your first issue that we started on, and then go from there. And what I'm going to do and present to Ray and you guys, I don't know what you guys do with it from there, but go at what needs to be done yet, and then some budget figures so you have an idea beyond this. And there are some major things. If you go down and look, if you go to the boat landing or the little fishing area right in front, and you look at the face of even the number one turbine housing there, that the south side, if you look at the cracks in there and the amount of damage that's there, it's really in bad shape. I think it's 7 years ago, we also did we had divers with cameras and inspection, and we did the backside of the main dam on the Michigan side, and we stopped one of the major cracks that was in there. But there's a crack from one end to the other of that dam, horizontal crack. And one of the things we've talked about since we started this was draining that pond behind the dam down and trying to fix that backside, because that's going to solve a lot of the issues for the future where the water's going through, either into the turbine housings. We've stopped most of the water. It used to be like a shower system coming off inside the powerhouse on the inside. We've stopped most of that now. So I kind of just wanted to give you an update. One of the things I'm working on, besides those things for you guys, is we're developing a computer program with a company out of Texas that we were just down with that work in the oil fields. We've worked with them. But it'll give you an asset management as well as all of what's been done, what is projected to be done, that we can do for you guys. That they said Joe's not here, Tim's not going to be here after a short time, Ray's not going to be here forever because I know he's only a couple years younger than me. So, but it'll give you what's been done, what's projected to be done, what needs to be done, and then with that same thing, you can do all your asset management digitally with it if you want to use that program. So it's some stuff that we're working on. I'm really building it around your system because I'm most familiar with that. So, does anybody have any questions of what we've done, what we're going to do, what we need to do, or what was projected? Wish I had this program for you. I worked on it the last 3 days and locked up.
Can you come next time?
What's the next time? As long as he knows me dates and meetings, I'll make one. Because I'd like you to see it, because you'll see what, you can stand at the face and see that damage.
I know what you're talking
If you
about.
go out, basically I can zoom right in and we can fly right around the whole system and I can show you what's there, and it's pretty interesting.
That'd be great.
What's the next date?
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
It is, and videos.
Yeah,
What is it?
yeah.
March 3rd?
March 2nd.
March 2nd?
Yeah, if you
March
could.
2nd I can be here.
Okay, we'll just put it, we'll just continue this
Yeah,
conversation.
I'll make it work. But like I said, it was working when I left home.
One thing that I want to make sure everybody is, just keeps in the back of their mind is that, we started this project how many years ago, and
8 years ago.
yeah, and we had the 5-year plan, and just like everything, you know, we have opportunities, like with the turbine project, so that we switched from one area to another based on those opportunities. If the pit's open, and it's already drained, let's get in there and do this concrete work. That's why we kind of came off of the dam face and went on to into those turbine pits. But one thing too, though, is that this was really, and it was a good thing. It was started off of the FERC inspections, the annual inspections. They come up every fall, and we walk around, and we have great inspections. They're very, I'm happy with what we do, and you know, you take 8-10 years ago, they weren't so happy when they looked at the concrete, and that was one that they really stressed, and this plan is provided to them. What we do each year is also provided to them in our annual report, and they're just ecstatic. I mean, because
We're making some progress.
we're making tremendous progress in their eyes, because, you know, you get, I'm sure they have certain facilities that probably maybe give them a little bit of, I don't want to say they're giving them lip service, but they don't put the kind of effort in that we've appropriated. And I know it sounds like a big number, but, you know, that's a big liability that we have out there. It's a tremendous asset, but if something happened, it's a tremendous liability. And we have all sorts of requirements that we follow because of the amount of the liability we have, and we take it seriously. And so it is a very important part of our asset management program, and it's supported by our regulating agencies. That's the biggest thing. That makes us feel good that they have confidence in us as we move forward, and you see it year after year in how they respond to our annual reports. So
I can add, we've changed that to their needs, and we've.
Yeah, absolutely.
One year, when Joe was still here, he called, he said, hey, the inspector was just here, we got a leak on the west side, they want it fixed, and we had it fixed in 2 days for them, so they had a report right there. So, and I'm available for that, you know, I'm available, actually, you know, I'm just a salesman anymore, I can't run the jackhammers and stuff, but Ray has called me times, and I'm available when you guys need me, so.
I appreciate through the years just being here, you know, you guys plan on doing something, and like last year, you know, with the pits were open, you got in there, you know, flexible to get in there and work on it when it's a good time for us, so we didn't have to dewater and have things shut down, because we already had it done, so that's much appreciated by the city.
And I believe we've not gone over budget one year out
No.
of 7, so we'll do our best for you. Honestly, I look at it as a project, I mean, as a partnership on each project that we do, so.
we've been appropriating, and Dee and I had this conversation earlier, we've been appropriating the same amount each year, and what we want to do on this next 5-year plan is to show the project as a whole, because, you know, there might be a year where we have to go over that. I mean, we appropriate $80,000 a year. We may have to go over like $20,000 or so, and it'll save money though, because if you just stop at a certain amount, you have to remobilize, like out on the face of the dam. That's a good example. So if it's estimated to go over that, we should just appropriate that, and then the next year it's probably going to be under. You know, it's going to go back and forth. It's tough to set those arbitrary amounts.
And you have a couple
We've
big
kind of
ones. The backside of that dam is going to be a big project. First of all, that whole pond is going to have to be drained. They're going to have to shut off the water from the river coming in there, and there's going to be a lot of work there. And I've said it before that if it came to the point where it comes to a big project and you need to bid that, I'll come in and help you write your bid, you know, because we know the place, and I don't think we'll be beat on bids. We've not been beat, you know, rarely on this kind of work. So over the last almost 40 years, we've been working with hydros.
I'm going to be interested to see how the conversation goes with our licensing agency when we talk about, you know, draining that part of the river.
We've done several on the dead river.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do it. My guess is that you'd probably have to have your river shut down. On the Michigan side, your container gates are still going to be operational.
Yeah.
But you're probably looking at a month of dry there. So it's, but if you don't, you're gonna have major issues, that 100-year-old concrete with cracks. And there were cracks in there, you could stick your hand in the back of that.
You probably put in a cofferdam and,
Probably do something, because we had also talked about trying to make the small gates above that operational again, so you could shut that down easily, because right now you can't. We have to look at them. But what we've been doing is, and I don't know the depth of the water right there, I haven't looked, but actually blobs, a water-filled blob, and it works as a really good dam. You put a big blob in, you pump it full of water, and it fills all the voids, and it works really well. Depending how deep it is right there, I'm not sure. But obviously, we'd have to stop that side, because you couldn't stop both sides, because you know.
yeah.
And with the way our waters have been, we're better off waiting until we look at a drier year when the water levels are down.
We're talking about how many turbines are gonna be done?
None.
None.
When that happens-
This is on
when
the
that
dam
happens,
face itself.
Because they're all fed through the same
We'll be
channel
dumping a
there.
lot of water though.
Yeah.
But again, we'll work with you and help plan it and everything, so. And we've had Plutchek Crane out of Aranet. We work with them a lot on hydros. And that's who did the Taylor gates, but they bring a barge right in and work with us. We built metal gates, above it, so do it as quickly as we can for you.
So there might be an opportunity to look at some of that gate work that needs to be done at the same time?
Yeah, we take a look
Yeah.
at whatever
Right, one
opportunities you
time,
have,
I
yeah.
think you try to plan for everything, because I think it's been about 20 years since that was drained. It was drained just for an inspection, and there are some pictures somewhere that Joe had. But literally, you could stick your hand, that far into some of those cracks on the back of that dam, which isn't unusual. I mean, we've done probably 30 dams over the years, so.
Well, I feel we've had a good rapport with your company and FERC, and we definitely have to stay on FERC's good side.
Yeah. And I enjoy helping you guys. I mean, I enjoy this.
And you're close to home.
Yeah, well, I don't live in town, well, I live in Park River now, so I moved to Canton. So, anything else?
No, I appreciate what you've done for us over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I will get this ready for you for the next.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. We'll move on to communications. Approval Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 1, new turbine shaft. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you. We had this discussion in one of our budget discussion sessions. We started this discussion last fall when we saw we had one of the shafts, the number 2 shaft within the number 1 turbine chain that was heavily damaged. It needed to be replaced, but at the time, with the schedule, we decided that we needed to just make it work for a period of time that we can appropriate and plan for getting that shaft replaced. So, working with Lita Strove on a plan and a proposal. We have that before you tonight. We have Scott Klabunde is here from HCMS, and William, I'm going to kill your last name. Okay, from Lita Strove, and I just said that your English is much better than my French, so. But they provided us with this proposal for council consideration tonight. It's an eight-month job, so it's not something that you want to put off. We need to be discussing this now so that we can have the work done in the fall time, or get this work completely done basically before October. So I'm going to open it up to these guys if they want to come up and present their proposal, but the bottom line is the proposal is for $312,521. Also keep in mind that the 25% of that cost is going to be in this budget cycle, but the remainder, 75%, will be after July 1st, so it's something that we will have within the budget. So I did provide you, we had originally over the weekend in your packet, it had the proposal was for $297,000, but this morning we were talking, or today we were talking, and there's a 25% bond, performance bond requirement that we were going back and forth as to whether or not we could just have a check, performance check set aside. but we are governed under state law that we have to have that bond. That's an extra $15,000 in order to have that bond, so we had to add that. That's what the main change is, what I handed out tonight, is the $312,000. William, why don't you come up and you can answer questions or...
So, as already mentioned, this is the only change between the last proposal and this proposal.
Wait a minute, I got some questions. Just quick on the terms. On item 6, page 3, you got terms of payment, PO signature 25 down, materials ordered and shipped 25 down. Site mobilization 25, and then site demobilization 25, 30 days, offer valid for 3 days. But under item 11 on the next page, you're showing us a lump sum of 50 down upon contract signing that 30. And I'm assuming that's just on the shaft itself?
That was on. So the second portion, that's between us and HCMS.
Okay.
HCMS is subcontract.
So
Yeah.
there are subcontracts, so that's between us. But
And them.
the reason why you guys see that is because for this particular project, they're under us, but we're not taking a cut on them. So basically, we're letting them pass through. So that's why you guys have the proposal in your hand.
Okay, so our T&Cs are the 25, 25, 25, 25, Scott? That's our T&Cs? Okay. That cleared that up. Number 8, HCMS assumes U1 existing alignment is acceptable and will reassemble and assist in recommissioning without alignment. Anytime I see assumes in contract language, I like to just get some clarification on, we're assuming it's aligned because we just aligned it?
Correct. There was a special alignment that was done.
Yeah, I was here for that special meeting, yep.
This marginal shaft. But we're not assuming that we're going to go through all that, the time that we spent last time around to align.
Right, so, and you don't think there's a lot of risk by removing that shaft that we can knock it out of alignment or putting a new one in?
No.
Pretty comfortable that we're gonna be in good shape there?
Yeah.
What kind of money we talking if something does happen?
On the alignment?
Yeah,
Well, what could happen is we could find that, the existing arrangement needs to be realigned. We spent a couple of weeks, our team spent at least a couple of weeks there last time around realigning it, so.
remember what kind of money that was, Ray? Off the top of your head?
A couple weeks,
Yeah, just a couple of weeks.
you're talking probably at least 20 grand.
Yeah. It's unlikely, but.
That's all labor, you know.
I just want to.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Because it's not, to realign it is not a simple task.
Just it's 7% uptick in total project cost if it has to happen. I'd just like to be aware of kind of what we're looking at if something like that goes on.
What we would do is you probably would, when we get in, you remove the old shaft, you put the new shaft in, and at that point, you take your readings and you're going to know if you got to fuss with it, and if you have to fuss with it, then it's a timeout, and you basically make a quick estimate of how far you're out. At that point, I can let you guys know.
Yeah, if there's any unusual wear, along the shaft on bearings, clearances, we might get into it, but
Part
I
of-
think it's unlikely.
Part of this proposal is there's inspection.
Correct.
That's included in this proposal, so, we're going to do the shaft work, but we're also going to go in and inspect to see how the turbines fared over the last year, and so you're going to see some of that in the inspection too.
Yeah, and some of the notes there, non-destructive testing in the critical high-stress areas to be done. And we're actually pulling off the turbine covers. That's not something we typically do on a normal inspection. There's extra work there because, as Ray said, we're doing, this is, we want to take the best possible work, and that's the way to remove covers, so.
With our history, I think it's prudent for us to
Yeah.
really do a deep dive in the inspection, and we're going to do number 2 as well. So we'll have both of them.
Item 10, HCMS generator bearing rebabbing work includes resetting rotor air gaps. City of Norway personnel will drain, fill, and supply bearings. Oils were just a question. We're obviously capable and certified to do that without, screwing up the secret sauce. Okay. Moving on to item 5 on this one, Steve. Disposal of old shaft and responsibility of the city of Norway. Can you draw me a picture of how we take that big shaft and we get rid of it?
Yeah, we need to be setting in the yard there, so we'll take it out. We've done similar to the runners. There were total 6 runners. I think those are the local scrap area.
How long is that thing?
This shaft, 19 feet long, 12 inches in diameter, I think it's 4,500 pounds.
Okay,
They could be cut up on site into small pieces.
Gotcha.
It won't be a problem for you guys.
We'll wait till the price of scrap gets higher.
yeah, I get that right, put it in the yard. Warranty, you're looking at 1 year on workmanship only, correct? So what you're saying is that we're not gonna get any warranty on anything that your subcontractors.
You're gonna get it through Lita Strobe.
Yeah, our warranty is 36 months through.
Yeah,
the-
through Lita
Well,
Strobe.
it says here, just so we're all clear, HCMS does not warrant rebuild equipment provided by others. So my question is, if you as a general get things rebuilt by other suppliers that work within your scope, we do not have a warranty on that gear? Is that how I read this language?
Well, we're not the general.
You're the general?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know.
That's just our standard warranty
Okay,
language there.
and we get 3 years from you? Okay.
Which is very unusual to get a warranty.
The mayor really pressed him.
Bonding is, bonding, of course, was taken care of, we answered that already. Liquidated damages, Ray, not applicable?
There's a standard, there's liquidated damages. They were shortened though because of the size of this project. Under item 8, there's some language for liquidated damages.
Oh, and the stuff you just gave us tonight, I didn't have a chance to look at. I got you.
Yeah, that's the standard lead stream, or that's the contract that we had. And it's the same language as what I handed out to you this weekend. It was just, there was a couple things that we had modified, mainly because of the bond issue, so.
Gotcha. Diving services, guys? Think we're gonna be needing any diving services on this one? Okay, just checking.
No.
No.
Costs associated with winter, cold weather conditions. So it looks to me like we're trying to start this in late September with an 8-week pivot point. Do you think there was going to be costs associated with winter come into play, and we're trying to finish this up third week of November? No? Okay.
The diving service is really there for dewatering, and that's your responsibility.
Okay.
That's where that sometimes we come into play, and get the gates sealed properly. Here, it's not, I don't think it's an issue. But a lot of times you bring divers in to try to seal that gates. It's a common practice on some sites.
Great. Thank you, Steve.
I have one thing as I was looking through this, and Stephen, you had this on yours, and it says, under special lifting devices, HCMS assumes powerhouse crane has current safety certificate. We ran into that last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
Did we get it
This is
certified?
not, no, but this is not, this is out in the main,
It's not the same crane we're talking about?
It's
No.
outside the powerhouse.
it's outside the powerhouse.
Any questions won't be.
Right.
Okay, so we're not talking about the one that was inside?
No.
Because I didn't know if you had to bring it in, down, so you don't have to bring it in the
No.
powerhouse at all?
No, this is on the Michigan side, so it's all.
Okay. I just didn't want to run into that when we get to it. I was just gonna say, if we need that certified, we gotta do something with that.
That's a great question.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for working on those terms for us, too. I like the terms.
Thanks, guys.
If there's no other questions, do I have approval of the Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 1 new turbine shaft?
I make a motion that we approve Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 1 turbine shaft for the amount of $312,521.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Move on to Sturgeon Falls Hydro Unit Number 3 inspection.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. This particular item is something that Tim and I talked about, and he had a request that we consider this. I think it's an excellent idea, is that Myron Construction will be done with the turbine number 4, unit number 4, work here probably within the next week and a half, and since they're already here and mobilized, that he suggested that we're going to be putting Unit 4 on, we're going to be taking Unit 3 off because we don't have the water to run Unit 3 and 4 at the same time. So his suggestion is while they're mobilized, it'll save us some money if we just have them move right over and do an inspection on Unit number 3. The last time we did this was a number of years ago when we actually had some work done on Unit number 3. So I think it's important that we get in and inspect it. Yes, exactly.
If I may,
Yes.
this is why we keep talking about getting a plan together for his dam. So really, what's the maintenance? You know, it's fine to say, let's look at it because it makes some sense now because the folks are there. But is it 2 years, is it 3 years, is it 5 years? When should these things be inspected?
Well, it depends on the inspection. You know, we have annual inspection, but this is a dewatering, and so,
Okay.
you know, this will be getting down in the pit. We typically go in once every 5 years, you know, to do that, and we're past we're almost up to the 5 years.
Yeah, well, 16 to 20, probably 3.5 to 4 years.
4 years. And we've had some issues, not so much, I don't think, with this unit, but on unit number 4, we had some issues with the bracing, and so it's good to get down in there, get it dewatered, get down and do the
It's
inspection.
already dewatered, ain't it? Or isn't that?
No, 3,
No,
4 is.
4 is, we'll
We're talking about
dewater
going
3.
with 3.
Yeah, but, you know, this is a good opportunity as, when you don't need it, to get that dewatered and inspected. Otherwise, we'll have to pay for mobilization of somebody to come in and do that.
Before council considers, it's a relatively nominal amount, relatively speaking, for once. However, Mr. Anderson and I have spent a lot of time working with our local contractors, I think we've worked with Myron on a number of occasions. They always attach their standard, quote-unquote, industrial services agreement, or they add on language, basically trying to exclude any and all liability from their projects when they do a bid. I think we've worked with Myron before and have worked through some of the terms. I just asked the council if the council is inclined to approve this proposal, to allow Mr. Anderson and I to work with Myron to address and/or strike and/or make changes to paragraph 5, limitations of liability, and also paragraph 7, arbitration. They request in their standard forms, everything goes to arbitration and try to avoid the court of law, which I generally advise against. And then on the limitation of liability, they are asking to limit any liability, no matter how it proceeds, to the cost of the contract, which would be $4,255, which usually Mr. Anderson and I speak with the local contractors when they add these and just try to address some of the language in there and/or ensure that they have proper insurance of a minimum of $1 million. I think we've talked about that in the past, having that at least $1 million insurance policy in place, but limitation of liability to $4,255 regardless of their negligence, I don't think is acceptable.
Simply, we're going to use the language we used in the last contract. I mean, we went through that whole thing, and I don't see that as being a problem. I think it's just telling them, hey, we recognize that you send us your standard form contract, but here's the one that you just approved, and here's what we're going to use.
Grant, we must have basic language for this, right? Yeah, just give them ours and them sign it, that's it.
We do, and we get that all the time. It doesn't matter who we're dealing with. They have their standard contract, they send it to us, we send it back and say, nope, look at the last one we did, that's the strikeouts. And we've done it enough now with different ones that they know what we're looking for.
And I would agree, you definitely want at least $1 million
Yeah.
in geo.
Any
Thank you.
questions? Thank you, Grant. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that Myron Construction Company be approved to perform the unit number 3 inspection for a price not to exceed $4,255.
And allowing Grant and Ray to
Yeah.
talk about the, okay.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Mangini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
No.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to approval electric department master plan revision.
Okay, we have used Mr. Krause for a decade plus. He put together the first master plan for us, and as I mentioned in our system review, or in our report, that it was actually with Short Elliott Hendrickson, SCH, in 2004. He has since moved on to his own company, but has retained some customers based on that expertise and knowledge of this type of work. And what we did was I asked him, we actually have in our budget an amount per year. We have $8,000 approved each year for Mr. Krause's engineering services. Normally it's outside of hydro work. It's all of our line work, our distribution type work. And we want to get that original master plan updated. It was first put together in 2004. It was updated in 2011. Because we have had to spend so much time between 2007, 8, 9, even through this last 3 years on the hydro, we really haven't addressed the issues, some of those issues within that plan. So we want to make sure that our master plan is complete. It'll include system upgrades, different line extension or lines upgrade areas. Like we know we have, go up Perney Lane, District 5, we know we have Vulcan, we know we have areas south of town. So those are what we need to have reviewed. Since he's, we're basically working off of his plan, we think that it's more efficient to just have him come in, evaluate where we're at based on that plan, and then get it revised. So the amount that he's suggesting is $3,500 to do that. And like I said, we've appropriated $8,000. We haven't utilized the $8,000. We haven't spent any money out of that budget yet this year. So.
Just one comment, just because you have it in your budget doesn't mean you have to spend it.
We understand that, Mr. Morano. I truly do. I preach that to our guys, but this is a master plan effort. And for us to put a budget together for you for a 5-year plan in our budget, I really have to know what is the best routes and what are the estimates for those projects. And that's what this plan does, is it puts budgeted numbers to the master plan that then will allow us to provide you with a budget for the next 5 years.
So this is strictly for new build areas?
This is for, not new build, this is for areas that are underserved for voltage reasons. They're areas that have, they're maybe out of compliance with pole heights. They're areas of our existing system that need to be upgraded in order to meet the current standard.
Are we having outages, issues, things like this for customers?
We do have, not so much outages, but we do have voltage swings within these areas, and so we do know that there's issues with them. And it's explained, it'll be explained within the plan as to, why they should be addressed.
Am I wrong in assuming that Perney Lane is probably on the top of the list?
Perney Lane is the number one.
All the way out?
Yeah,
'Cause I know
it's been,
low voltage issues out there.
yeah, especially the farther you go out up into this.
There's major issues up there.
Yeah. We've done some intermediate work on areas that have popped up that we just can't, we couldn't, we had to address. WPA Road was one down in that area. We did do some work in Vulcan to stabilize some of the voltage issues
Vulcan's
down there.
bad, too.
Yeah, it needs a final fix down there, so, but we do need to put these on the horizon. So, you know, we've had to hold off because we've had to address the hydro. You know, that's been our major issue over the last 10 years, the last decade. You know, so we're hopefully turning the corner from there and being able to address, you know, our line work. So,
Is there any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that KPE be approved to perform the system master's plan update for a price not to exceed $3,500.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Request to vacate right-of-way between lots 1, 2, 3 and lots 8, 9, 10 of the Block 5 Briar Hill Mining Company's Addition 14. Mr. Anderson.
okay, these next two items, they're both requests from the city to consider vacating basically old alleys. And the first one here is actually the alley that's on the block that we're currently going to be working our salt shed project. There are two properties, two houses on the block, so what we're suggesting is not we're not talking about vacating the alley right behind those houses, but basically beyond that, in our lot, to vacate that alley and incorporate that within our project area. So I went back through into our files. We don't have any language or documents that show that that's ever been done. And then on the second request, we have the right-of-way that's actually, it should have been vacated when we had the Milwaukee Broach project, but basically you have a right-of-way, an alley right-of-way that goes right between the building, right through the middle of the building. So I think that's one that also we're requesting council to have vacated. Under the rules of vacating right-of-way, we present you with what the resolution would look like for vacating. It gives you the legal language, which is basically, in this case, it's pretty simple with lots and blocks, or blocks and lots. And you would give us permission. You're not approving the resolution as per se. What you're saying is the language of the resolution is good, go publish it, and then we publish it for a public hearing. There's no specific language as to letters, where they go out, but what we do is we look at any properties that are, of course, directly affected by the request, but also we'll look at that block and anybody in that circumferential area around that block, if they had any concerns or questions for us when we go do this.
I may be, excuse me, I may be nitpicking a little bit here, but request to vacate right-of-way between lots 1, 2, 3 and lots 8, 9, 10 of Block 5 Briar Hill Mining Company's addition. How many people you think know where that place is?
Well, no.
Same with the next one. I know, lots 1 to 5, lots 6 to 10, and somewhere along the line, those street names got changed. If you look at that map that we got, it was Charles Street and Argonne Street.
Correct.
And
So
it was changed to 9th and 10th Avenue.
So what I do when I put the letters out is I actually give a map with the current names.
Oh.
Because we have to deal with legal, and those are the legals.
The maps will go out.
The maps go out with the correct location, because
Okay.
even if you give a description with the correct language, people will still question, they don't know, sometimes they don't know where exactly it's at.
Right.
So I like to give a map, so they
Okay.
can look at it and they know exactly what they're looking at.
Good, good.
And I want to have a map provided too when we publish, so that they can have that map and look at it.
Now, do you remember when those names were changed?
No.
It's not affecting any land property owners there, is it?
No, the two homes that are on the block that we are going to have the salt shed, with current salt shed, the alley behind them is not going to be touched.
Right.
And when you look at the way that the property goes, just to the north of that property, I mean, actually has a retaining wall. So, I mean, the hill comes
Right,
down and,
right.
yeah, so you looked at it, and that's why when we looked at the project, we didn't want to impact those houses, and we thought, well, he's got a retaining wall, he's got basically shrubbery and everything blocking it, so should be in pretty good shape.
Any other questions? Do you need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that request to vacate right-of-way between lots 1, 2, 3 and lots 8, 9, 10 of Block 5 Briar Hill Mining Company's addition be approved.
Second.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
We're approving the resolution.
You're approving to go out for...
To go to public hearing.
For public hearing.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Now we have the same request to vacate right-of-way between lots 1 and 5 and lots 6 of 10 of Block 4, Briar Hill Mining Company addition. It's not the same as the last one, but in the same area.
Yes.
It's going to affect Milwaukee Broach.
Yeah, I mean, it's to clean up the paperwork, so that what ends up happening is they end up owning that 20-foot alley. So it's, I mean,
Right.
It's right through their building. Somebody should clean up the paperwork.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve request to vacate right-of-way between lots 1-5, lots 6-10 of Block 4, Briar Hill Mining Company's addition.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Approval of special events application for the Norway Spring Classic.
Okay, this comes out every year. I think we're familiar with the run that is put on, managed by Mr. Adams, and it's a tremendous event for the city. Lots of people come into town. It's the 40th annual event. Mr. Morrow, remember when we first went on that?
I remember the inaugural.
Inaugural.
I won the 1400 division.
That's why I mentioned it. 'Cause-
Thank you.
Are you old?
That's,
Well,
Anyway, so this is the special events application.
there's
Do I
a,
have
go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead.
Just a comment here, there's awful lot of work involved in this. Some people just don't realize how much work is involved, and now with the chip timing, it's a heck of a lot easier. And, well, extra help is always welcomed. I've been ran for 33 years, and I would say I hit that one a good 24, 25 times. The 10K of this run is the second hardest in the UP, in my opinion. But they got the 5K and they got the 2 mile, and the 2 mile you can also walk, which a lot of people do with the little tykes. So I guess where I'm going here is, I have an application here, if anybody care to sign up for the 10K? No takers? Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, do I have approval for the special event application for the Norway Spring Classic?
I make a motion that Spring Classic be approved. Support. Application. This is a great thing for our community.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Special events application Easter egg hunt.
Okay, another fantastic event for the community. Again, another one that hats off to the organizers as they put in a lot of work for it. This year it's on Saturday, April 11th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And here's the application in order to utilize Marion Park.
Do I have a motion?
This is
Motion we
This is another
approve the
great
Easter egg
event
hunt.
Another great event for us. Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
One question on it, Ray, do you know how many years that's been going on? I know it's over 25.
You know, we're
I
going to
don't
make you
know.
the town historian, I think. That's the next
Well,
piece of business.
I think I had my son there when he was a year old, and he's 25, he'll be 26, so for sure that.
Well, it's been a long time, I know that.
I'll have that for you.
Can you? Okay. I could call Becky.
Move on to a sign permit application, Crossroads Spring Rummage Sale.
Okay, this particular event is scheduled for in April. The reason that they're coming, it's not on city, the event isn't on city property, it's actually at the Crossroads Church. That's that shared facility between Bethany Lutheran and Grace United Methodist. But they have a request to put signs out along the highway, and I've given you the locations, because basically that's a tough area. When somebody, they have to, if they're heading west, they have to actually go up and turn and come back east because of the turnaround. So they are asking to put signs basically around those areas so that people can find where the event is. The event is again on April 25th. Incidentally, it's the same day as the race. It's the 25th and the 26th, 2 days. So in order to do that, they have to have city permission,
Yeah,
in
so-
order to use right away.
We know MDOT's gonna, you think it'll be up and now before MDOT notices?
MDOT has not had any problem, provided that we approve it.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll ask us, and we'll, yeah.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to say something first, Kenny.
Sure.
I have no issue with this, I mean, good for them, but that, coming out of that drive, that makes me nervous. I mean, people are going 60 miles an hour down, I mean, I come down that way every day, and I'm doing 55 right there by the road, and the 40 isn't until way down almost by the bank, and people are passing me when I go by there, so they're doing at least 60. And you start pulling out of there, and these people are gonna be coming out, and this car's gonna be turning in here. It's it's a mess. They gotta get that speed limit lowered. I mean, I've been harping on this for 10 years now. They gotta get that lowered, and I know you can't talk to MDOT, and if you're out there listening, I don't care.
Yeah, I put in personally,
That's ridiculous.
a half a dozen requests for speed study. That's what they have to do. They have to do the speed study, and then they use the 80th percentile.
Yeah.
And we never pass, and so they never lower it. And it's the state police, actually, that are the ones. And they have their, it's right in the legislation. They talk about the 80%. So I did the same thing out by Marion Park. You come up over by Fairview, and you're coming through there, it's ridiculous, it's 55, when you really think of all the entrances, and they'll blame us for having a blind entrance, but it's like, you have so much activity between the race course and the park and the baseball, and so much activity, I mean, so we can ask until we're blue in the face, but, until we pass, until it gets lowered, with that 80 percentile, we're probably never going to get that done.
People gotta die, too many people gotta die first before they do anything.
Yeah, body bags.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Crossroads Church Bethany Grace Rummage Sale sign request.
Second.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Approval, sign permit application from the Knights of Columbus.
They have a similar request. The actual event is going to be at St. Mary's Church, scheduled for March 18th, 19th, and 20th. They'd like to put a corner sign on, like by the Pocket Park, or at the Main Street and US 2 corner, similar to what we've allowed for the American Legion when they're having their breakfast. Gets people off the highway, they know they're having the event. It'll be a good event. It's a worthy cause, so.
Do I have a motion?
My motion on Knights of Columbus, fish fry sign request, be approved.
Support.
Mr. Mararo?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
We have no one in the audience. We'll move on to mayor council comments. Scott?
I have none for tonight.
Brett?
I have none.
Jeff?
Just back to my no vote, first time I voted no on the council here tonight. Once again, I'm gonna, guys, I'm gonna start being a stickler. Yes, economies of scale, that made sense to do that. But the no vote was more of a protest that I want to get some more rubber to the road with the planning down there, so these type of things we're out in front of.
Lee?
Yeah, Ray, could you explain one more time? There's a lot of people out there don't understand with our debt, about our Standard & Poor's rating.
Sure, we'd love to.
I figured you would.
So, a few years back, because of the bond issue that we did for the, this last project at the hydro, and because of, we refinanced the cable debt, and we actually do that through general obligation, which is the general fund. So both separately, the general fund and the electric fund went through an effort to have a bond rating. And so what they do is they come in and they look at our complete financial situation, condition. They also look at the complete financial health of the community as a whole outside of the city. You know, demographics, the countywide, your region, and they come up with a rating that is for bond interested prospective bond buyers, okay, for our municipal bonds. And so at the time, we actually received an A+ rating for both, and that actually was, we were pretty excited about that, because when they came back and they told us, now, I mean, you could talk about, and they have triple rating and double A, triple A, double A, single A, and then they use the pluses and minuses. But for us, what they said is, that's about as high as we can get based on where we are. When you look at the demographics of the community, the population, our regional economics, it's pretty darn hard for us to get above that. So, you know, we were very pleased with that rating. Every year they come back and they basically evaluate whether or not that A+ could get downgraded. You know, whether it's our debt, whether it's our management, you know, our fund balance. And so we, again, received an A+ rating. They confirmed that, you know, that we were very financially strong. And I think that's important, you know, and as I mentioned in the memo, because they specifically highlighted that we have strong financial management, the council, the management team here, we have sound policies on how we handle repayment of debt. They do mention that our debt load is high. They do mention that our pension debt specifically is high. But they also mention that they're not downgrading us because our plan and how we handle it and is very sound and positive. And I think that's the key. They're not, I mean, this is Wall Street. These are, you know, New York, Wall Street, S&P. You know, it's the main bonding rating companies, and they look at our debt, and which is traditionally what everybody talks about, but they look at it and say, well, we're not worried about that because you have a plan. A majority of it is based on these projects. It's revenue debt. It's not a burdensome to the taxpayers, as been reported. Yeah, we'd like to see your pension debt down lower, but there's factors, you have a plan on dealing with it, and there's factors that are out of your control. So those are things that they've specifically highlighted.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Now, on Channel 6 tonight, I hope it'll be on later again tonight. I was watching it at 6 o'clock there. They had a nice, Channel 6 had a nice presentation, Mr. Anderson starring in it, about new and the proposed non-motorized trails out there in the Marion Park area. And there are an awful lot of people out there. I mean, they got the fat bike tire, they're putting in a new 8-mile trail. I mean, it's gonna be awesome down the road. And again, that'll bring people into this town. For these people, it's a destination for them to go. And the head of it is out at Marion Park. That's all I have.
The only comment that I have is to go back to these special events, the Norway Spring, the Easter egg hunt, even the rummage sale, Knights of Columbus coming into town. I mean, these things don't come together easily. I just appreciate the people in our community who put these things on to bring people into our community. So I just really appreciate everything that everybody does to make our community better by having these events.
Here, here.
Grant?
Nothing, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
I just want to add something to what Councilmember Mangini mentioned about the trails. The folks that are putting these together, I'm working with them pretty closely now, and they're keeping me, in fact, they joined our Parks and Rec group, which is fantastic, so we really have a close communications now. But one thing that I told them early on, and they've really taken to heart, is that, yeah, there's a good portion of the trails that are kind of extreme. They've got, bikers that like to have that challenge, but I said, you really have to make sure you're aware as you go along that you have a lot of people that if you want a lot of support, you have to have some intermediate, even beginner areas, and they've really done a nice job of putting access for, people that aren't into the heavier task events. In fact, this winter when they're out there grooming, a lot of their activity is snowshoers. They get a really good snowshoeing route that they're putting together. They're learning on the cross-country ski, so they want to add that component. So, I mean, they're doing a lot of great things. In that interview, the superintendent from schools is here in that interview, and the reason is that the school has opened up 160 acres, 80 out by the golf course, and they just opened up 80 out here by Norway Mountain that we're going to be able to connect from Strawberry Lake. And so they're looking at other areas of connections in the community. So they're really looking at providing some top-notch outdoor access for trails. And it's not just very extreme biking. They want that in there, but they also, we have, for regular schlubs like me, that I can go out and go on a trail. And I think that's really, they listen. They're really good. So I give them kudos, appreciate all their effort, and just want to call them out on that because they're wonderful to work with. So that's it.
Trish? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Moraro?
Yes. Tris, I remember to bring a full back.